Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, which was originally supposed to last only several weeks, is now on track to mark its first anniversary later on this month. Although being quite an achievement, it is a very fragile one, as the IDF is methodically striking emerging threats by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, and the Beirut government is yet to disarm the Iranian-backed Shiite militia. While U.S. President Donald Trump would surely like to add an Israeli-Lebanese peace agreement to his accomplishments, this appears to be more of a remote possibility at this point, now than a resumption of hostilities becoming increasingly likely. What exactly are the prospects for progress in this arena? Joining us to analyze this matter include Colonel in Reserve Reuven Ben Shalom, who is a cross-cultural strategist as well as an intermittent host here at TV7. It's great to see you, Colonel. Also joining us is Major General in Reserve Gershon Ha-Cohen, formerly the commander of the defense colleges here in Israel, as well as an Army Corps commander. It's great to see you, General.
Good to see you.
And I'd like to start with you, General Ha-Cohen. When we're talking about Lebanon, what are we closer to, war or peace?
According to the whole circumstances, it is really looking like no chance to the success of disarming Hezbollah by Lebanese army. It looks like they realized that it is much beyond their capabilities, including the main anxiety and the threat of Hezbollah that it will just push back Lebanon to civil warfare. Therefore, it means that it will just be escalated, and the Israelis will find themselves in a new engagement by that, if it will be escalated.
Thank you, General Cohen. Colonel Ben Shalom, closer to peace or war is obviously a tough equation to set on the table, but nonetheless, when we're looking at the situation, particularly with the complexities in Lebanon, at a time when, on the one hand, we see the Iranian proxy continuing to try and rehabilitate, on the other hand, the government is desperately in need of international help. What can be done?
Well, first, I was wrong, apparently, and I'm so sorry that I was wrong, because I really hoped for the Lebanese people that they will finally get out of, these many years of being under the burden of Iran and fighting a really ridiculous war with Israel that has no point except serving Iran's agenda. I thought it was possible, but now it's looking less and less possible. As the general said, I don't think Lebanon is going to go to a civil war in order to realize this purpose. Perhaps it would be easier for them to stay united and deteriorate slowly, unfortunately, back to hostilities with Israel. I do want to point out that as far as the timeline, I don't think there's any chance that we're going to reignite immediately some all-out war like we saw in the last 2 years. The reason is that we were so successful in degrading Hezbollah capabilities. We are not back at October 6th, 2023. Hezbollah does not possess the ability to do a surprise cross-border raid like they planned to do. We took out so many of their strategic capabilities, yet what they're going to do now is rebuild slowly on a different timeline that we know, and continue to raise this flag, this fake flag of resistance, and prepare for the day that it will come back. Also, we have to notice that our strategy has changed. We don't contain anymore. We don't wait. We are striking targets every day, everything that pops up, so we're going to deal with it, which just means, sadly, that we're going to continue this war of attrition. They're going to continue to rebuild, and unfortunately, it's going to go back maybe someday to another broad round of violence.
Thank you, Colonel Ben Shalom. Obviously, we're all sorry that the hopes and aspirations of seeing Lebanon regain its sovereignty and provide a better future for its people is something that we are still hoping for We need a miracle in this context. And in that line, General Cohen, when we're talking specifically about Lebanon, we're talking about obviously a very sectarian society. The Maronite Christians on the one hand, the Shiite Muslims on the other, the Sunni Muslims in the north also currently split, finding themselves either more influenced by the increased involvement of Turkey and Qatar in Lebanon, as opposed to their historic affiliation and alignment with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Druze, obviously, also between the rock and the hard place in this context. But when we really look at the broader scheme of things, to what degree can Israel potentially serve as a positive factor here, utilizing a number of levers together with the Americans to truly convince Hezbollah that pursuing the absolutist type of approach to refusal to disarm is not going to serve not this terrorist organization or the communities that they are reliant upon living predominantly in southern Syria and the southern neighborhoods of Damascus?
Actually, your description really connected to the Israeli expectations that after the huge success in the last year, all the other groups in Lebanon, including the new president, Ha-Cohen, that he is already coming to be a president of 1 year. It is a lot in Lebanon. And the expectation was that they will realize how important it is for them to build up the sovereignty of the Lebanese state, and they are united in the government to compel upon Hezbollah disarmament. And yet, in the last months, Hezbollah, maybe by Iranian support and by awareness of the weakness of the Lebanese army, they came back with stubbornness to insist not to disarm, with all the religious justifications that the weapon is holy, from the importance of the commitment of El Muqawma for permanent struggle against Israel. And even now that President Ha-Cohen directed the Lebanese army to really stop Israeli operations in the Lebanese territory, it means that Hezbollah succeeded to push the Lebanese army for replacing the main engagement. Instead of just engaging with Hezbollah to disarm them, they are directed by President Ha-Cohen now to come to engage with Israel. Of course, Israel will not destroy the Lebanese army because we are aware about the whole constraints, considering the American interest and the European interest in building the Lebanese army. But it created again a kind of status quo that blocking the fulfillment of the expectation for rebuilding Lebanon, and this exactly what was really informed and described by the American delegation, Tom Barak, to them, to tell them, if you will go on to take this route, you will lose the hope to rebuild Lebanon.
These remarks that you're referring to by Tom Barak, of course, during the Manama conference in the Kingdom of Bahrain, were quite strong. They were very robust, and not for the first time that he voices those sentiments, in which he plainly says, unless Hezbollah disarms, unless the Lebanese government comes to terms with the necessity to ensure that all weapons remain under one sovereign, there is no Lebanon. Quite frankly, there is no sovereign in Lebanon that can bring about a necessary shift that would draw in the international support from the West or from the Gulf Arab countries. Something that obviously is subsequently also echoed by German Foreign Minister Vadeful, who visited Lebanon and voiced those same concerns and the same warning. Remarks that were then subsequently also made by the defense minister of the Netherlands, who visited Beirut and signed an agreement together with his Lebanese counterpart, the technocrat counterpart, that is, both are technocrats actually, in regard to a collaboration agreement between the defense ministry in the Netherlands to the Lebanese defense ministry and military as such. But all of that seems to be going quite on deaf ears. It seems like the Lebanese government is trying to, rhetorically at least, voice time and again, that there is a necessity for change, and that Hezbollah needs to understand that the best path forward is a path of diplomatic discourse rather than hostilities, which does claim the toll from this Iranian proxy on a daily basis through, or rather by means of Israeli strikes against Hezbollah's attempts to rehabilitate itself. And Colonel Ben Shalom, I'd like to refer this to you. What is Hezbollah thinking to itself? I mean, it can't believe it's going to survive unless it thinks Israel will not enter into the fold and will not engage it in a broader sense of full-scale hostilities, as was the case prior to the cessation of hostilities that was struck last year on November the 27th.
I am a student of General Ha-Cohen, and I hope I learned well from him that to ask what were they thinking or what are they thinking is strange in a way, because what are the Iranians thinking? What is Hamas thinking? What are they doing? They're destroying their, right? They're destroying for their people any future, no hope. The special envoy from the United States just called Lebanon a failed state. It's like saying to them, guys, what are you doing? Your economy is in shambles. Your country is ruined. You have nothing to achieve with this. But the answer is that that's not what Hezbollah is looking for. That's not what Iran is looking for. They are fighting a fight that's a 1,000-year fight. It's jihad. It's different sentiments that we around this table can understand. And they're not going to stop. From their perspective, by the way, they're smart. As long as they exist and continue, like I said, to raise this flag, so what? So we kill another 1,000 operatives. We take out some more strategic munitions. What does it matter for them? It doesn't. But that's why I think that
with that, if I may
military...
interject, Colonel Ben Shalom,
Sure.
We're talking here, of course, about trying to rationalize the other side and understanding the nuances of such a jihadist organization, of course, Shia jihad rather than Sunnah jihad, which is more understood in the West, so to speak. But here specifically, we're talking about an organization that did sit out during the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, despite the fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran has armed it and built it to the point of the robust capabilities that it obtained in order to serve as a deterrent against Israel. So why did they sit out then and not break through into into line, so to speak, with the demands of the Lebanese government now?
I would say a technical calculation. They just play their cards as they see it, always looking, having their eye on the ball, which is, as I said, long-term, centuries. And right now, to wait something out, that's fine. But again, it doesn't change the course. They don't want the welfare of the people of Lebanon. They don't want better education for their children. They're fighting a holy war. That's the way I see it. And that's why I think the answer is not militarily. I think the answer is diplomacy, and it's not enough. The rhetoric by the United States is good, it's strong. Deals like this, like the Netherlands trying to step up abilities of the Lebanese armed forces, I think it's positive. A bit difficult for Israelis to accept sometimes because it's giving weapons to an army on the other side, but I think all these efforts are good, but it needs to be much more. The entire world, the entire region, all have to put pressure on Lebanon and tell, stop this madness. What are you doing? And help them in any way possible to curtail Hezbollah and disarm it.
Well, I do agree that diplomacy is part of it, but from a Clausewitzian perspective, which Israel is very comfortable with, diplomacy is merely the extension of politics, and so is war. So the question here, General Ha-Cohen, at what time do we transition from the diplomatic course to one of hostile intent, since the economic perspective or the economic tool of war is no less effective being utilized as we speak?
It is true that even though, as it was just explained, we cannot rationalize according to Western cultural perspective the whole conceptions and hopes of Hezbollah, but yet we can understand that if they will realize that all their uh, ideas how to re-attack Israel are just now absolutely in definite incapability, they will try to find another route, what is called hudna. It means a break in the process of warfare, but yet they will not, of course, give up their dreams to go ahead to fight in 1 hour that will become better for them. And yet, regarding the weapon, they will try to keep a great part of the weapon. Maybe they will agree to disarm part of the weapon to make something that is like what is called takia, means an illusion of disarm, and then they will get another 1 or 2 years of tranquility. It means preparation for better struggle.
Well,
Can I continue that idea, Jonathan?
please do.
I think the difference now in Israel, the different strategy, the different nature of Israelis after October 7th is such that it won't be a transition from diplomacy to war, even though I did preach diplomacy. So I think what you're going to see now is actually a continued state of war from our perspective. Every minute, we're forward deployed inside Lebanon. We strike every target that emerges. Everyone saw what we can do in the last 2 years. And in a way, a huge change is that we are no longer sitting by and waiting. What is going to be the big frightening surprise by Hezbollah? They're in shambles. Everything they tried to do was thwarted. All their capabilities are degraded. We're not afraid of them. So, and I keep referring to what they're doing as ridiculous, but it could be ridiculous and painful. And it will be more painful, of course, for Lebanon. So what I think is going to happen moving forward is we're going to continue actually this fight. The flames will be higher and lower. Unfortunately, it looks like higher, but we no longer have to think of it as periods of quiet and then periods of war. That's just the way I see it.
In a way, of course, not stability. If it will be look like stability, it will be just a kind of illusion.
Indeed. Well, would it be fair to say, General Cohen, since we're all your students, after all, that currently Hezbollah is tactically positioning itself to live another day, so to speak, to rearm itself, to rebuild itself, not believing, or rather being convinced at this point in time at least, that Israel will not reignite the war machine, so to speak, against them, despite the American rhetoric that claims to the contrary, that unless they disarm, Israel would re-engage in combat, and maintaining that same strategy that is ultimately the strategy of 12 Shia Islam dictated by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, that Israel will have to be eliminated in the next 3 to 5 years, or else the great Mahdi would not reappear. And that is something that they obviously, as fundamentalists who are engaged in mukawama, or the resistance, in jihad against Israel and the West at large, believe that that will ultimately come to pass. So they're still convinced in their illusion, irrespective of reality on the ground.
Yes, reality could convince them that they are in what is called in Islamic concept, مرحلة الاستضعاف. It means stage of weakness. And according to Islamic faith, they are allowed and even committed to recognize difficulties in reality in order to understand that this is a sign of God, that they must stop right now the ongoing warfare in order to be prepared for a better stage in the future. This could happen, and this will happen by Israeli pressure against them, not by Lebanese army against them. So what we will see is an ongoing Israeli attacks, and the outcome is still open.
And as Colonel Ben Shalom, you mentioned that Israel is, of course, engaged on a daily basis. We do see the funerals taking place. We see the degradation of the Iranian proxy's infrastructure in southern Lebanon and its various operatives being slain day after day. Is that something sustainable from their perspective? And at what point do they say either enough or we're just going to break all rules and engage in the fight till the end, which could lead to truly devastating consequences for them? They would utilize, of course, the tool of disinformation, as do all terrorist organizations quite well these days when international media is so susceptible to disinformation, particularly in Western civilization. I mean, where are we heading from here?
Well, first, I think that what we're doing now militarily is not something that we need to expect the other side to say, oh no, Israel's going to attack us. What we're doing now is also, we're not using that card in that way, I think. What we're doing is doing the job that needs to be done, which means if there's an emerging threat, we need to take care of it. If something is happening, someone is going to put their hands on some weapons storage and take it north, we have to take it out. It's not like we think that each and every strike of ours is going to change the tactics or the thinking on the other side. And again, I think this card in a way was used enough during this war. I think we also have to be very reserved in how we threaten. I think Israeli leaders sometimes issue too many threats, too much bolstering rhetoric, and I think we have to calm that down. We just need to do what needs to be done. And the other side, they will be very calculated. I think they're better than us. Most of our enemies, by the way, are much better than Israelis in being calculated and reserved. Israelis, something happens, we want a response, and we want the response now. Hezbollah could just wait it out. They could have another strike and another strike, and they could have a plan to do something in 2 years. And by the way, not even in this arena. They're very calculated and very long term.
Thank you, Reuven. But, when I really look at the war that raged from October 8th of 2023, when Hezbollah engaged Israel initially and then evolved into a high-intensity warfare to the latter part of last year, particularly before the ceasefire, when Israel really hammered Hezbollah, at the height of which we saw, of course, the beeper operation, the walkie-talkie operation that followed the next day, and then, of course, the elimination of all the top leadership of Hezbollah, from Hassan Nasrallah himself and the people under him. We see that Israel was reserved, not only based on its own volition to be reserved. It would have maybe wanted to be more aggressive, but the United States, under the previous administration of President Joe Biden, limited Israel with quite a number of threats over the head of Israeli leaders, hovering around with potential consequences in international fora. Those are things that were taken into account, and Israel played it reserved. What we saw in the war in Lebanon, this last war, was one of great reservation, and that did not unveil all of the tools at Israel's disposal. Is it not so, General Ha-Cohen?
Yes, in the last campaign in Lebanon, very calculated, in a very calculated way. The operational idea was not come to Beirut and to achieve absolute victory against Hezbollah in Beirut. It was calculated according to the whole circumstances, and the fact that the outcome was an emerging phenomena of the IDF military pressure, that a new direction of Lebanon just emerged with new president, was a great hope. Right now, after 1 year, we are finding that it was not enough, and the daily process that became a routine of Israeli attacks every day against Hezbollah effort to re-achieve positions in southern Lebanon to attack Israel, this is a sign that maybe a new campaign must be in the Israeli threat against Lebanon. And actually, the Americans' delegations declaring that, not Israel, because Israel trying right now to do the minimum effort, not to be the side that will be in the responsibility to open a new war. But if it will not come to a desired outcome, we will not have a chance but to take the risk for a new campaign.
That is something that we're, of course, we're praying for peace, but are preparing for war, as should be in every circumstance within particularly our troublesome neighborhood, but also in broader terms. Unfortunately, the world is turning into a new reality that has been not accommodated by many nations for many years now. But this is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank General Ha-Cohen and Colonel Ben Shalom for all of your insights. I'd like to thank also all our viewers at home. Until our next edition from here in Jerusalem. Shalom.
For more of TV7 Israel's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Jerusalem Studio, now available on Spotify.